Hello and welcome to the Farming Week, the podcast from Agriland keeping you up to date with all the latest in Irish agriculture. I'm Charles O'Donnell and I'm joined by Francess McDonnell, Maitiú Monaghan and Agriland beef specialist Breifne O'Brien. There's been quite a number of developments this week on several fronts, including on farm schemes. This week, the Department of Agriculture confirmed that it has paid out over €452 million to Agri-Climate Rural Environment Scheme participants. According to the department, €204 million has been paid out to participants from 2024, while €248.1 million has been paid out to 2023 participants. Meanwhile, on the organic farming scheme, Minister Martin Hayden announced this week that balancing payments had started, with over 81% of farmers in the scheme receiving their balancing payments this week, which amount to around €8.4 million. But our first item on the podcast this week is not quite such good news. Minister Hayden has announced that he is bringing together key stakeholders to a meeting next week to discuss a reset of the TB eradication programme. Francess, why has the Minister made this move?
So I suppose the first question, Charles, is why now is he having this emergency meeting of key stakeholders? Well, he has described it as a reset of the TB programme, and he has on very many occasions said that he completely understands the impact of a TB breakdown on a farm family, both from the emotional and financial aspects. But let's just take a quick look at the figures as they stand. In 2022, the herd incident rate was 4.31%, but by the end of last year, it was 6.04%. And the total exchequer spending on TB had soared to more than €100 million in 2024. Over recent months, Agriland has been reporting on the work of the TB Forum, and previously the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine presented 20 proposals to members of this forum to curb the spread of TB. Proposals which, by the way, were described as half-baked, poorly thought out by the IFA's Animal Health Committee Chair T.J. Maher. Now, Minister Hayden has said that he believes that if the country takes a robust scientific approach to controlling TB, they can, working together, halt the increase in recent years, but in time reduce also the levels of TB to its ultimate goal of eradication. So this meeting next week is going to bring key stakeholders from across the country together, and we will probably see a lot of DAFM's 20 proposals high on that agenda next week.
Moving on now, and the Irish Farm Film Producers Group, which is a scheme for recycling farm plastics, is making changes to compliance measures for farmers using the service this year. Can you tell us a bit more about that, Francess?
Yeah, really important timing for this now, because the Irish Farm Film Producers Group, the IFFPG, has set out changes to its collections this year, which it says is aimed at curbing the illegal farm plastics trade. The group said that only farmers with valid 6-digit label codes on proof of purchase, that's receipt or docket from retailers, including co-ops, merchants, contractors, will be charged at the standard €60 per half-tonne rate at bring centres this year. Now, the IFFPG has said very clearly that farmers who do not provide the label codes will be charged double. And as previously reported by Agriland, the minimum charge at IFFPG bring centres this year will be €60 per half-tonne, with every half-tonne after that being charged at €60. This marks an increase of €10 when compared with the minimum charge of €50 per half-tonne at bring centres in 2024. In 2023, the minimum charge stood at €35 per half-tonne. So lots of changes there to be aware of this year, Charles.
We're going to move on now. And Breifne, you reported this week on the Property Services Regulatory Authority moving to suspend the licence of a County Galway livestock mart for 2 weeks. What are the details on this?
Yes, that's right, Charles. So the PSRA has suspended the licence for Portumna Cooperative Livestock Mart until Tuesday, May 13, 2025. So the mart is prohibited from trading during the period of the suspension of the mart's licence. The PSRA is the statutory body with responsibility for licensing and regulating the property services sector. Now, this includes auctioneers, estate agents, letting agents and the property management agents in Ireland. In a statement to Agriland on Tuesday, April 29th, the PSRA said the Property Services Regulatory Authority sought and was granted sanction by the High Court to suspend the licence of Portumna Cooperative Livestock Mart Limited. The statement said that the licence suspension is effective from April 28, 2025 until Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, at which time the matter will be back before the High Court. A spokesperson for Portumna Cooperative Livestock Mart told Agriland the Mart will be closed for 2 weeks and it is hoped the Mart will get up and running again in the next couple of weeks. The spokesperson also confirmed that the temporary closure of the Mart venue will have no impact on payments due to farmers for cattle sales.
And meanwhile, Breifne, there was other news concerning the PRSA this week as well, wasn't there?
That's right, Charles. So in a separate news story from this week, the PSRA has requested personnel from all livestock marts in the country to attend a meeting in relation to financial aspects of mart management. Agriland understands that the meeting is to be held on May 11th with Mart management personnel and other Mart officials asked to attend. So sources indicated to Agriland that the operations of Marts is expected to be part of the agenda of the meeting. Specifically, it is understood the management of client accounts will be the subject of discussions. It is understood that an audit of some Marts was carried out by the PSRA recently, from which concerns arose over finances. However, Mart sources have told Agriland that the issue is complex and broader issues should be considered. These issues include non-payment for animals by a small cohort of buyers putting pressure on client accounts. In a statement to Agriland, the PSRA said that it has invited all licensed Marts to attend the meeting on May 11th, 2025. The central theme of the meeting is to address statutory requirements, including compliance with the client monies regulations, the PSRA statement said. Also commenting on the meeting, a spokesperson from the Irish Cooperative Organisation Society, or ICOS for short, which represents many livestock marts around the country, said, "The marts welcome ongoing information and guidance from the regulator and anticipate a productive and informative meeting on that basis."
Thanks for that, Breifne. We're going to move on now and talk about an important update in the case of missing Kerry farmer Michael Gaine. This week, Gardaí confirmed that they had reclassified the investigation into his disappearance as a homicide investigation. This was followed by an emotional appeal from Michael's family for anyone with information to come forward. Francess, can you tell us more?
Yeah, we know that despite extensive inquiries which have been carried out so far, there have been really no developments in this case, Charles, and unfortunately Michael's remains have not been recovered. So Gardaí have again said they're seeking information from anyone who can assist him in bringing Michael back to his family. And we saw a video this week that was posted to An Garda Síochána Kerry Facebook page from Michael's wife Janice, in which she described her husband as her best friend. And we can listen to a little bit now of what she said on that Facebook page.
Our lives are shattered. We want answers. We love Michael. We want him back. I'm appealing to anyone with any information of what happened to Michael. Michael went to the farm on the 20th of March and it was his routine to his animals. He never returned home. We are devastated and we want him back.
And as you said, Gardaí have confirmed that they have upgraded their investigation into the missing Kerry farmer's circumstances to homicide, and a formal criminal investigation is now underway. The 56-year-old sheep and suckler farmer was last seen in Kenmare town on Thursday, March the 20th. And since then, the Garda investigation team have undertaken over 320 formal jobs and inquiries and taken nearly 130 witness statements. They've also recovered nearly 2,200 hours of CCTV and dash cam footage and conducted extensive searches in the area over the past 5 weeks. They've asked anyone with information to contact the Killarney Garda station on 064 667 1160 or the Garda confidential line on 1800 666 111 or speak with any members of An Garda Síochána.
Thanks for that update, Francess. We'll move on now and bring you news just coming to us today. The Environmental Protection Agency has reported positive developments for Ireland's ammonia emissions, which agriculture is the largest contributor to. What has the EPA said?
Even though this is a new report from the EPA, Charles, The figures are slightly historic because the year in question is 2023, but they are still worth highlighting because there is some very positive data here. In 2023, Ireland was compliant with the EU emissions reductions targets across all 5 major pollutants. That's ammonia, non-methane volatile organic compounds, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides and fine particulate matter. So why should we care about these? Well, because these are all pollutants that can impact air quality, health and the environment. What is also very important about these statistics is that when it comes to the agri sector, they show that Ireland's ammonia emissions decreased by 4% in 2023 due to the increased use of low emission slurry spreading on farms and a reduction in nitrogen fertiliser use. Now, agriculture accounts for over 99% of ammonia emissions in Ireland and previously had been in non-compliance with EU targets, according to the EPA. But as these figures show us, in 2023, Ireland was in compliance with the EU target for ammonia. The EPA has said that the reduction in ammonia emissions in 2023, which reflects the impact and benefits of on-farm adoption of a range of good farming practices driven and supported by national policies, avoided the release of 7,000 tonne of ammonia to the atmosphere. So really positive data there from the EPA this week.
We'll move on now and talk about agri-business. The last number of weeks has seen financial results being announced by several major players in the dairy industry. And Maitiú, you're going to take us through the latest from the last week or so, starting with Tírlán's results for 2024.
Yeah, Charles, it was a good week for everyone, but for Tírlán, one of Ireland's biggest co-ops, they reported a group revenue increase of 5% last year, up to €2.66 billion. It was a difficult start to the year for Tírlán with the bad weather, but they had a significant growth across the summer and into the autumn. It was interesting to see then that the co-op processed a third of the Irish milk pool last year, producing just over 3 billion litres. During the week, I spoke with Tírlán CEO Sean Malloy, who is hopeful that 2025 will be a positive year for Tírlán despite the ongoing uncertainty surrounding US tariffs.
Well, I think there's a lot to play out on the US tariffs yet. We have to wait and see how they ultimately land. Tariffs in a small open economy that exports internationally are never a good thing. We are very much supporters of free trade. The industry and indeed ourselves are planning insofar as we can. Uncertainty is not a good thing for business because you're not quite sure what to plan against. But we have been through challenges before, be they Brexit or COVID or indeed the Ukrainian-Russian war, and we're well used to that kind of planning. But we would hope to see sense prevail and global trade to be allowed to continue.
The co-op confirmed that milk payments to its 4,051 dairy farmers totaled €1.56 billion in 2024. And according to Tírlán, milk payments last year were a huge driver in the rural economy and helped support over 19,000 jobs.
And of course, Tírlán is a major shareholder in Glanbia plc, which released a financial update this week for the first quarter of 2025, Maitiú.
Yeah, Glanbia released its revenue for Q1 of 2025, which increased by 7.2% compared to the same period last year. The PLC said that its performance was in line with its expectations for the period, and it believes that the main drivers of the revenue increase was the price increase of 5.2% and an increase from 2.7% of acquisitions. Glanbia also said it focused on executing a 3-year transformation programme, which is expected to generate an annual cost savings of at least $50 million by 2027.
And we also had Orivo's results for 2024 as well, Maitiú. What's the story there?
Yeah, Charles, it was a good year for Arrivo as well. The group turned over €725.1 million, which is up 13.5% on last year. Like Tírlán, it had a difficult start to 2024 with the weather and subsequent geopolitical tensions. However, Arrivo said that the milk volume collected bucked the national trend and finished marginally up on 2023 by 1.5% to 516 million litres. It also announced an operating profit of €17 million, an increase of 236.1% on 2023.
And finally, in a busy week on the agri-business front, Kerry Group, like Glanbia, has issued a financial update for the first quarter of 2025. So what's the details on that, Maitiú?
Yeah, Kerry Group announced a 6.3% boost in revenue over the first 3 months of 2025, With positive growth of 3.1%, positive pricing increased by 2.2%, and a favourable transaction rose by 0.5%, Kerry believes it remains well positioned for good volume growth and strong margin expansion.
Thanks for that, Maitiú. And that just about wraps it up. Just a reminder before we go, amid the dry weather, that the Department of Agriculture has issued a condition orange forest fire warning, which will be in place until Tuesday. Meanwhile, Coillte is urging the public to avoid lighting fires or barbecues in high-risk areas outdoors. But that unfortunately brings us to the end of today's podcast. Please don't forget to rate, review and follow The Farming Week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love if you could spare some time to give us 5 stars and share The Farming Week with anyone you think might be interested. From Frances, Maitiú, Breifne and myself, all the best.